Okay, and David, I got your final iteration or your latest iteration up, I should say. And front looks great. I think that one thing in general I've noticed in the last couple of months with your work, you you're always adding more visual stops to your work, and I think that that's something that I would recommend you concentrate on moving forward. Count the number of times you're asking the viewer to stop their eye and look at something on a composition. For example, the front here we've got I'd say four visual stops. We got the background, and maybe even five, because the spacing between fiber and optics almost is making it look like two different words. I would close down that letter spacing right there. But anyways, you have background, 2, 3, 4, and 5. When this can really be condensed, and when I say condensed, I mean you can have the same amount of information and the exact same information, but based on the way you group it and proximity, it can be considered less than a visual stop. It could be you can condense 2 or 3 visual stops into one. Let me show you what I mean. Like I said, the first example would be to close that down, and then the next thing I would do is just take this and move it right over here and right align it with Charles Coe right over here and just group that. So now you only have, once you close that spacing and move this over, so it says no, Nobel Prize laureate Charles K. Coe. And then I think it'll really come together. It'll really start looking like one unified composition as opposed to different elements being placed on a page. I want you to follow that thought for a second, because I think the second page is even more exemplary of what I'm talking about. The number of visual stops on this page: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Background is 9. All right. My question, and I started out this critique by saying I think I'm seeing a tendency for you to want to push a lot of things into your work that otherwise don't necessarily need to be there. We saw that in the car composition way back in week 2, where I don't know if you remember, but I mentioned that you had placed things in the corners of that composition. And right now you're doing the same thing. You don't need to tell your viewer that's a timeline. They're going to know. You don't need to tell this is a biography. You've already announced him. I would just use a small, you could just put his name right there. You don't have to say father of fiber optics, godfather of broadband. I mean, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different stops here before you're even looking at the work. So I would get rid of all that, everything, except I would take that Charles Coe, move it right down underneath his image. But if you want to put father of fiber optics and godfather of broadband and all these subtitles, go ahead and put them right over here. So you'd have Nobel Prize laureate, father of fiber optics, godfather of broadband, Charles K. Coe. But I just think it's too much back here. I think you're asking the viewer to look at too many different things and try to put too many different things together. Okay, final comment. Well, actually, I have 2 more comments. One is regarding your timeline. This isn't really a timeline. This is just a series of chronological events. And let me show you what I mean. I'll do this. I'm just going to go real quick in here. I'm going to go new window, and I'm just going to say, I'm going to just say timeline. I'm going to go to image search, and we can see that a timeline, if you do this yourself, you'll see a timeline is actually a designed something, a designed set of visual stimulus that adds years to it to give a more of an infographic effect feel than just saying, okay, here's a series of events and here's the years they happened. Okay, I hope you follow my thought on that. My final comment is your rags. Your rags are creating kind of weird patterns. And remember, we don't want that in rags. This right here, where it goes like this, watch my cursor. See that wave that makes? And this one especially goes whoop like that wave right there. And then this one kind of goes like this. Jags in, out, in, out, in. And you don't want that. You want your rags to be, let me see, right here from this paragraph down would be pretty good rags, right here. At Woolrich, or actually from where you start from Joseph's College, right there. Those rags are good. You have long, short, and then end. Those would be considered very good rags. These are too long, too short, too long, too short. You want to even those out a little bit. If those were evened out a little bit, those would be good rags. But these patterns right here, especially in paragraphs 2 and 4, these patterns right here, boop, that, and boop, that, you don't want those. All right, good job.